I was quite surprised by the reaction, somewhat negative on social media, to this post featuring the one and only Jack Harlow having dinner by himself on Valentine's Day in New York City. Now, don't get me wrong, this is Jack Harlow. He is a prominent musician, I guess, in some respects. And, you know, this could also be a bit of a ruse. This could be part of a marketing plan, a rollout for a new album. He's been dropping some tunes recently. The videos that he's been filming for these singles have seemed very kind of handheld camera-ish, right? They seem very vlogish. They seem very real. There's not a lot of bells and whistles linked to the videos that he's been making. So maybe aesthetically, this could have been a ruse in purpose. Like, let me sit in a, what do you call it? I guess you'd call it like a cabin. Is it a cabin seat or whatever? At a restaurant, facing outward into the street, very busy during Valentine's Day where everyone's out eating with their, significant other. Someone's definitely going to spot me and take a picture of me anyway, right? So it might be part of the rollout. But if it's not part of the rollout and he did go out for Valentine's Day by himself, I rate it. I've long been a proponent for solo everything, and mostly because I tend to operate in life by myself. I tend to not rely on people. I don't really have a big circle of friends. I basically keep myself to myself for the most part, by design. Sometimes also because I might have a not so pleasant personality to be around 24/7. You never know. It could be partly my fault, partly other people's faults. You never know. But I do enjoy spending a lot of time by myself. I really do. But I also think it's really unfair to yourself, even if you're not like me. Even if you're not a serial loner like me, I think it's really unfair to yourself to limit yourself to only go out if you have company. Especially to do the things that you really want to do. Even more so the older you get. I think it's easier when you're younger. Everyone's looking for an excuse to go out. Everyone's looking for an excuse to not be at home. But the older you get, the more you'll realize you'll become a little bit of a homebody. You'll get kind of set into your routine. You'll have your things you like to do. So it'll be a little more difficult for you to just tag along with your friends and keep them company with certain things, which is kind of the basis of friendship, I think. I've always said, I think part of the basis of friendship should be the ability for you to like share intimate details about yourself to somebody and not feel like you're being judged or whatever it may be. And I think another really integral part of our friendship should be the ability for that person to just drop everything they're doing at a moment's notice just to keep you company. Whether you're lonely, whether you just want to go to fucking Central to return something, that I think is a mark of good friendship. I think the airport test is a little bit harsh. You know, people say, oh, if your friend wouldn't pick you up at an airport, it's not your real friend. That's a little bit harsh because most airports are pretty far out from most residential areas. You know, timing wise, what time are you landing? You might be at work. But I think if you can drop everything at a moment's notice to go, keep your friend company because they want to go to a cinema and watch a particular movie, or, or you can just be the shoulder for them to cry on if they're going through something difficult. That's a good friend. But I think outside of that, you should try to do as much as possible by yourself when need be and not rely on your friends to do it. So if you really wanted to check out this hot new restaurant that just opened up, the cuisine is something that you're particularly fond of, go. If you're shy, maybe pick some time in the afternoon when it's not super busy, maybe when you don't feel super awkward, and go and have something to eat. Don't limit yourself to only doing things if you have company. If you really end up doing yourself a disservice, I personally think so. I don't think it's particularly make any kind of sense anyway. So I've done solo dining a bunch of times, mostly at places that I kind of always wanted to check out, or sometimes in between events. Like sometimes if I go out raving, I might decide to hop over to fucking Bleecker Street and get a burger or something and chill on one of those benches and just jam. Don't get me wrong, Shoreditch is probably not the best example of a restaurant because they've got quite good communal open areas that you can sit down in and not feel like you're alone because everyone's kind of around you. But I've also eaten in restaurants by myself plenty of times as well, and I've never really filmed anything of it. If anything, I think there has been a bit of a trend in solo diners. I feel like now that I go out more often, I feel like I see more and more people out dining by themselves with a book. Just the other day, I went to a Turkish restaurant and there was a couple of dudes in there eating by themselves. One had his phone resting up against his drink, watching something on YouTube, enjoying his fucking sheesh. And a few other people were doing the same thing. So I don't think it's that uncommon. It's especially if you think about some of the more trendier restaurants that are popping up. Sorry, nowadays, a lot of them have bar menus. A lot of them have quite decent bar menus. You have a good bar you can sit at, with hooks under the bar that you can put your jacket on and stuff that aren't super uncomfortable to sit on and shit. So I think restaurants are starting to cater and starting to recognize that solo diners are an integral part of what they do. No, an integral part. Solo diners are a part of their establishment, are a part of their fan base. And I just think in general, people are starting to realize that limiting yourself to experiences only if people are keeping you company is really doing yourself a disservice, especially when you consider that we don't have a long time on this spinning ball. We only get one spin around. So if you're gonna spin around, you might as well end up doing the things that you actually want to do and not waiting until somebody offers to keep you company. That doesn't really make any sense. And I also think even more so Valentine's Day, there is something about, I see it on social, some people throwing these memes around where they're like, oh, I'm going to tell my girl that I've got some emergency, that I've been taken ill, that I've got some incurable disease that only lasts between the days of like February 13th, February 16th, right? Which is a bit of a meme, bit of a joke. But I also think there is something to be said for the dude who goes out of his way to essentially wine and dine somebody on Valentine's Day, knowing full well that Valentine's Day, although it doesn't mean much for guys, it means a lot for women. So taking a girl out on Valentine's Day is probably equivalent to introducing her to your parents, right? You are signaling that you're taking this relationship or this situationship quite seriously. So you're probably better off if you're single. If you're single and you're just dating or whatever, or you're playing the field, you're probably better off leaving everybody alone on Valentine's Day, even though you feel like you need the company, you're getting in your feels, you're listening to fucking Some Sexy Songs For You on loop again for the 7th time. I think it's better you leave people alone, because the last thing you want is to sell somebody dreams just because you went to smash on that particular day with some R&B playing in the background, and then you end up in a situation that's a lot more stickier than what it was prior to that date, because it doesn't really matter, really. It doesn't really mean anything. Most people that are actually in love and actually appreciate their partner, their wife, their girlfriends, their husbands, their boyfriends are usually showing them throughout the year. They're not just showing them during Valentine's Day. But societally, it's also important. So you kind of have to do it all year plus Valentine's Day. It doesn't matter. You have to include anniversaries, birthdays, and Valentine's Day. You have to show people the appreciation. But I think if you're a single dude out there, you probably do yourself a huge favor by indulging yourself in these type of things. And if anything as well, I think, you know, there's a lot to be, you know, a lot of these guys are out here on social talking about fucking alpha male this, alpha male that. I think a huge part of being an alpha male is also being somewhat cultured, right? Having an understanding of like cuisine and good restaurants and good food, good produce, having good taste in fucking wine and not just being a beer dude or a cider dude, you know? Having a good understanding of beverages or just drinks in general, right? If someone thinks I'm going to be non-alcoholic, and how do you get understanding of those type of things? You don't wait for dates. You don't just take out girls for dates to find these things out. It's too expensive and it doesn't make sense. You're better off going out by yourself, you know, just getting yourself a bar menu, having some snacks and running through that fucking menu and sampling all the cocktails. So like the next time you take somebody there, you can be one of those kind of flashy dudes like, oh yeah, shit, I know this is a good cocktail. You can kind of give the person a description, a rundown on what to order and stuff. Those are the type of things that will actually make you far more desirable as opposed to buying a fucking, renting some shitty Lamborghini, you know, and standing outside a nightclub. You're probably better off having a good understanding of food, of drinks and shit, knowing where the right spots are to go, where you can sit down and chill and have a nice intimate fucking conversation over some fucking candlelight somewhere in an overpriced place, in an overpriced part of London. That is all really important. But in conclusion, go out more by yourself. Solo dining is not weird. It's fucking awesome. Grab a book. I would advise as well, if you go solo dining, don't wear your headphones. Allow yourself to listen to the atmosphere around you, almost like a human breathing field notes. It's all good. It really is. It's fucking fun. I've had a blast doing it. And you also get a chance to sample loads of different restaurants and shit, and you get to sound way more cultured and, you know, clocked in than you actually are, because you've happened to eat at a bunch of places every Friday night before you went out or something, or after work on a Friday night, or at the payday for end of the month or something. Those things are pretty important, I would suggest. But again, what do I know? What do I know?